What if everything you've been waiting years to receive could unfold in a single day? Not tomorrow, not someday, but today, this very moment. Most people believe change requires time, effort, and long struggles. Yet Neville Goddard taught that time is only an illusion of the senses. The truth is that reality bends not in years, but in the instant you dare to accept yourself as already fulfilled. The moment of assumption is the seed of creation. And just as a seed begins to grow the instant it touches the soil, your new life begins the instant you feel it to be real within you. You've probably experienced it. Moments where you feel powerful, alive, ready to manifest, and yet, hours later, doubt seeps back in. You search for signs, you look for proof, you ask, where is it? And with each question, the gap seems to widen. You're not failing. You're simply forgetting. Forgetting that looking for proof outside is the same as declaring you don't yet have it. Waiting for reality to confirm your faith is what postpones the very thing you long to receive. Neville once said, "Assumption instantly seeds reality, even if the outer world takes time to catch up." But here is the revelation most people miss. Results do not take time. They take acceptance. Time is only the shadow. The real change happens in the instant you feel the wish fulfilled. That instant is timeless. That instant is eternal. The world simply rearranges itself to mirror what you've already dared to embody in silence. Modern science agrees. Joe Dispenza shows us that the brain doesn't distinguish between an event imagined with vivid intensity and an event lived in the flesh. When you close your eyes and feel the end is real, your brain rewires, your body shifts, your chemistry changes. In that very moment, the future is no longer a possibility. It is encoded in your nervous system as reality. This is why results can begin to appear in the same day you accept them. The shift happens before the world notices. But here is the pain that so many of us carry. We've been taught to wait for the call, to wait for the money, to wait for the relationship. And in that waiting, we unknowingly affirm lack. We live in a posture of delay instead of a posture of arrival. We chase signs, hoping they will reassure us. Yet every chase whispers to the subconscious, "It's not here yet." That whisper becomes the script our world must obey. Today, you're going to step into a different script. For the next half hour, I want you to imagine that everything you desire, money, love, health, peace, can shift within a single day. Not because life is rushing toward you, but because you are slowing down enough to let it in. This video is not about trying harder, not about forcing, not about searching for another secret formula. It's about remembering. Remembering that your assumption is already the creative act. Remembering that the moment you claim it inside, it begins to echo outside. As you listen, allow yourself to soften. Feel your breath as it rises and falls. Let your body become aware of the present. Because here, now, is where all creation begins. The day you've been waiting for is not tomorrow. The turning point does not belong to the future. It belongs to you. It belongs to this moment. And this moment can change everything. And so, our focus today is clear. We will explore the exact shifts that allow manifestation to show up in your life within 24 hours. We will uncover the hidden blockades, dissolve the habits of delay, and step into the secret Neville lived and taught. That assumption, when fully embraced, is immediate creation. Stay with me. Open your inner ears, because what you are about to discover can transform not only your day, but your entire way of living. There is a silent trap that delays more manifestations than any other. It is the subtle need for evidence. You know the feeling. You visualize, you affirm, you pray, and then you open your eyes and immediately search the outside world for confirmation. You check your phone for the message, your account for the deposit, your surroundings for a sign. And when nothing appears instantly, doubt creeps in, whispering that perhaps it did not work. That whisper is the very wall that blocks the flow. Because in that instant of searching, you have unknowingly declared, "It isn't here yet." Neville compared this habit to planting a seed and then digging it up every few hours to see if it has sprouted. The soil cannot nurture what you refuse to let rest. Your imagination is that soil. Every time you demand proof, you uproot what has already been planted. You delay the blossoming by disturbing the ground of your own consciousness. The paradox is cruel but simple. The more you look for evidence, the more you affirm its absence. Reality is not withholding from you. It is mirroring the posture of your inner gaze. This is why so many seekers feel like they are trapped in an endless waiting room. They live in the vibration of almost there, almost fulfilled, almost arriving. But almost is not creation. Almost is lack disguised as hope. And the law does not respond to what you wish. It responds to what you assume. The posture of almost produces an endless cycle of delay, because the world is only reflecting back the consciousness that commands it. Pause for a moment and reflect on how often your energy has been entangled in checking to see if the manifestation has arrived, checking to see if life has shifted, checking to see if signs are aligned. That checking is not neutral. It is a declaration, and it is a declaration that contradicts the very thing you desire. It is as though you are whispering to the universe, "I am still waiting," while at the same time asking for proof that the waiting is over. The two cannot live together. Neville reminded us that assumption is the only creative act. When you assume, you claim it now, not later. When you assume, you stop demanding evidence because assumption itself is the evidence. Feel the difference in your body when you move from asking, "Where is it?" to declaring within, "It is already mine." That shift may seem small, but it is the difference between standing at the window longing for a sunrise and stepping outside into the morning light that has already arrived. So the first hidden blockade is this constant demand for external validation. Release the need to check. Release the pressure to confirm. Your desire is not a fragile thing that needs constant reassurance. It is a seed already alive within you. Trust the soil of your imagination. Trust the silence where creation has already begun. Let the wish rest in the ground of your being, and you will discover that proof is not something you need to search for. It is something that will quietly appear when you no longer demand it. We are conditioned to believe that change takes time, that transformation must be a long road, that miracles are slow to unfold. Yet this belief itself is what delays the shift. Neville Goddard insisted that creation is finished, that every outcome already exists, and what appears as time is only the unfolding of what you have dared to assume. The question then is not, how long will it take? But how quickly can I embody the identity that already holds it? Modern science echoes this revelation. Neuroscience shows us that the brain is designed to rewire instantly under emotional intensity. Neuroplasticity does not need months or years to reshape pathways. One vivid experience, felt with conviction, can alter your perception, your chemistry, and your habits in a single moment. This means that the bridge between who you were yesterday and who you choose to be today can collapse in the span of a day. The world bends to the speed of your assumption, not to the calendar of your doubts. The true reason why most manifestations appear slowly is not because life resists, but because identity resists. It is not the universe holding back. It is the self-image that hesitates to let go of its old skin. We cling to the known even when it hurts, because the unknown feels unsafe. Yet once identity surrenders, once you dare to step fully into the assumption of being, reality must follow with the same speed. The outer world has no choice but to reflect the shift of the inner world. Imagine standing before a mirror. If you raise your hand, the reflection does not hesitate. It does not take days to catch up. It moves as you move, instantly. Reality is that mirror. The delay is not in the mirror itself, but in the hesitation of the one who stands before it. The moment you shift identity, the moment you walk, breathe, and speak as though the desire were already fulfilled, the mirror of life reflects it without pause. This is why one day is enough. One day of unwavering embodiment can outweigh years of half-belief. One day of complete acceptance can dissolve decades of doubt. Speed is possible not because reality suddenly accelerates, but because you finally align without resistance. What seemed impossible yesterday begins to unfold today, not by magic, but by the simple law that the outer must conform to the inner. Let this sink into your awareness. The distance between you and the life you desire is not measured in days, weeks, or years. It is measured in identity. And identity can change in a single breath. The one-day window opens the moment you choose to stop negotiating with doubt and begin inhabiting the end. From that choice, the shift does not wait. It begins here. It begins now. It begins the very moment you accept that speed is not only possible, it is natural. Neville Goddard's most radical teaching was this: live as though the wish were already fulfilled. Not tomorrow, not in preparation for someday, but now. This practice is what he called living in the end. It may sound simple, but it is the very key to instant manifestation. Because the moment you behave, think, and feel as though the desire is already present, you are no longer reaching for it. You are embodying it. And the universe cannot deny the identity you faithfully inhabit. Think of how you move through your day when you believe something is already yours. There is no strain, no anxious checking, no bargaining with reality. There is a calm certainty, an unspoken confidence, a natural ease. That is the vibration of the as-if state. It is not effortful pretending. It is the invisible shift of self-image. The outer world does not change because you demand it. It changes because your identity has already changed, and life has no choice but to match it. When you walk into a room as if you are already wealthy, lovable, or healthy, your energy announces it before your words do. The tone of your voice shifts, the rhythm of your breath slows, your posture transforms. Others feel it often without knowing why. Opportunities, synchronicities, and events begin to arrange themselves, not because of some external force, but because reality is a mirror, and the mirror reflects the posture you hold. This is why the as-if state works instantly. It bypasses the endless waiting and places you directly into the vibration of fulfillment. You are no longer a seeker hoping for signs. You are the fulfilled one radiating from a place of already having. The shock to reality comes not from how much you desire something, but from the moment you stop desiring and start being. Reality bends quickly when the identity shifts, not when the longing lingers. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself living today exactly as though the desire were already true. Hear your own voice speaking with the calmness of someone who knows. See your own body moving with the confidence of someone who has already arrived. Feel the quiet smile that belongs to someone who no longer questions. That is not imagination as fantasy. That is imagination as creation. The inner rehearsal is not practice for a future. It is the event itself. The as-if state is the sacred bridge between the invisible and the visible. It does not wait for proof. It generates proof. It does not bargain with time. It collapses time. And in that silent decision to live now as if, you cross from wanting to being, from hoping to knowing, from delay to immediacy. This is why Neville's words remain timeless. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, and you will be carried across the bridge of incident to its inevitable outer reflection. Before we continue, pause for just a moment. If this truth is already resonating with you, if something inside you feels that this is the shift you've been waiting for, then I want you to take a look at the pinned comment below. I've left something there that expands this very idea in a way that will help you feel it even more clearly. Don't overlook it. Often the smallest reminders are the ones that unlock the greatest changes. Now, let us move forward. Beware of testing the law. There is a temptation that almost every seeker faces, the temptation to test the law. It begins subtly, often with a thought like, let me try this technique and see if it works. At first it feels innocent, even playful, but hidden within that posture is the seed of doubt. The very act of testing carries the assumption that perhaps it will not work, and the law, which mirrors your assumption, has no choice but to confirm the hesitation you secretly hold. Neville spoke often about this error. He reminded us that the law is not something to be tested like an experiment in a laboratory. It is the very fabric of reality. To test it is to declare separation from it. To test it is to say, I am not yet convinced. But the law responds only to conviction. It does not wait for you to gather evidence before it functions. It functions because assumption itself is the evidence. Think of how a seed grows in the soil. The farmer does not plant it with the thought, let me see if seeds work this year. He plants with the quiet certainty that the seed will unfold in its time. The soil does not require belief to operate, nor does it tolerate constant suspicion. So it is with imagination. To assume the wish fulfilled and then watch nervously to see if anything happens is to choke the seed before it sprouts. The law requires faith, not as blind belief, but as natural acceptance. Testing the law also creates a dangerous cycle. The seeker tries, looks for proof, fails to see instant evidence, and then declares, it didn't work. That declaration becomes the assumption, and the assumption becomes reality. Doubt confirms itself not because the law failed, but because the person unknowingly assumed failure. The law was always working. but it reflected the state that was truly held. The shift comes when you move from testing to embodying. To test says, I hope. To embody says, I am. To test says, I will wait to see. To embody says, it already is. The difference may sound small, but it is the difference between living in the vibration of lack and living in the vibration of fulfillment. The law bends instantly to the latter. So beware of testing. Stop demanding evidence as a condition of belief. The law does not respond to bargaining. It responds to silent knowing. The test is not whether it works. The test is the life you live tomorrow. When you wake in the state of fulfillment, when you walk with the posture of someone who already has, when you speak from the end as though it were the only truth, that is the proof. And soon, the world will echo it back, not because you demanded evidence, but because you no longer needed any. There is a subtle addiction hidden within the journey of manifestation. It is not always obvious, because it disguises itself as excitement, as hope, as spiritual curiosity. It is the constant chase for signs, the endless search for external reassurance, the thrill of seeing a number, a feather, a coincidence that seems to say, you're on the right path. In those moments, the body releases a surge of dopamine, and for a brief instant you feel alive, certain, validated. But then the high fades, and with it comes the quiet return of doubt. And so you chase the next sign, the next confirmation, without realizing that you are addicted to the search instead of anchored in the fulfillment. Neuroscience tells us that dopamine is the brain's way of rewarding anticipation. It is the spark of pleasure that comes not from the destination but from the pursuit. When you live in the cycle of waiting for signs, you are training your brain to crave the chase rather than the arrival. You become attached to hope itself, and hope becomes a substitute for fulfillment. This is why so many seekers feel stuck in an endless loop of almost. They mistake the rush of temporary excitement for progress, while the deeper state of assumption is left unattended. Neville warned against this when he spoke of living in the end. He knew that chasing after confirmation was simply affirming absence. Every time you look outside for proof, you reinforce the inner belief that it is not yet yours. The law does not respond to fleeting dopamine spikes. It responds to the stable vibration of assumption. Signs may appear, but they are not the cause. They are the echo of an inner state already claimed. The breakthrough comes when you shift the reward. Instead of training your brain to release dopamine for signs, train it to release satisfaction for assumption itself. Feel the pleasure not in the search, but in the silent knowing. Celebrate the moment you slip into the end and breathe as the fulfilled one. That is the true reward because it is sustainable. Unlike the fleeting thrill of a sign, the calm confidence of being endures. When your body learns to crave the state of fulfillment rather than the chase for evidence, you free yourself from the cycle of self-sabotage. No longer are you rising and falling with the presence or absence of signs. You are steady. You are grounded. You are already there. The world then responds naturally, because the outer must bow to the consistency of the inner. This is why the dopamine trap is so deceptive. It gives the illusion of progress while keeping you bound to delay. But the moment you claim assumption itself as the pleasure, as the prize, as the truth, you step out of the cycle entirely. Then the law begins to reflect not your search, but your being. And in that state, reality cannot help but align. Neville often reminded us that imagination is not daydreaming, it is creation itself. Within 5 minutes of focused inner vision, you can shift the entire field of energy that surrounds you, the invisible atmosphere that others sense before you speak a word. This aura is not mystical in the way people imagine. It is the natural radiation of your inner state. When you carry the assumption of being fulfilled, the body reflects it. The tone of your voice carries it, and life responds to it. One of Neville's simplest yet most powerful methods was the practice of inner conversation. He taught that instead of merely affirming silently, you should hear with the inner ear someone congratulating you, speaking to you as though the wish were already accomplished. Imagine the warmth in their tone, the certainty in their words, the smile on their face as they acknowledge your fulfillment. In those moments, you are no longer hoping. You are participating in a scene that already exists within the eternal present. The beauty of this practice is its immediacy. You do not need hours of meditation or complicated rituals. Within minutes, your nervous system begins to respond. Your heart rate shifts, your breath deepens, your body releases the chemistry of someone who has already arrived. Neuroscience affirms this truth. The brain does not distinguish between a vividly imagined event and one experienced in the physical world. What you repeat in the sanctuary of imagination becomes the program your body obeys. And so, in 5 minutes of sincere inner dialogue, you can reprogram your aura. The space around you becomes charged with fulfillment rather than longing, certainty rather than doubt. Others may not know what has changed, but they will feel it. Opportunities will seem to move toward you, not because you chase them, but because your invisible field is broadcasting the signal of someone who already is. Think of it as tuning a frequency. If your inner state is static and scattered, the world responds with noise and delay. But when you settle into a single, clear channel, the channel of already being, the signal becomes unmistakable. Life must respond to that clarity. Your aura, your frequency, your very presence declares the truth, and the truth becomes irresistible. This is why such a short practice can alter the course of a day. 5 minutes spent in deep inner conversation can shift the way you carry yourself for the next 24 hours. And those 24 hours lived as the fulfilled self can open the gates to results you once thought required years. The change does not begin in the outer. It begins in the quiet chamber of your imagination, where the invisible becomes visible through the authority of your assumption. Gratitude has been spoken of so often that many reduce it to a casual practice, a polite habit, a momentary gesture. But Neville understood gratitude in a deeper way. For him, thanksgiving was not the anticipation of what might come, but the evidence that it already is. True gratitude is not for a future blessing. It is the natural expression of acceptance. When you give thanks in the spirit of fulfillment, you are sealing the assumption. You are declaring with your entire being, "It is done." There is a profound difference between saying, "I will be grateful when it happens," and saying, "I am grateful because it has already happened." The first posture is rooted in delay, the second in immediacy. The first reinforces the waiting room, the second closes the gap. Gratitude in advance is not tricking the mind, it is aligning the vibration. It is the invisible stamp that seals the envelope of your desire before it is sent into the world. Neville taught that thanksgiving was the highest form of prayer, because it arises not from hope, but from certainty. When you fall asleep in the feeling of gratitude for what is already yours, you drift into the subconscious as one who has received, not as one who is waiting. And the subconscious, which shapes the fabric of reality, takes that posture as fact. It does not argue. It accepts what you embody. Imagine ending your day with this seal. As you lie in bed, instead of replaying worries or rehearsing doubts, you whisper within yourself, "Thank you for my desire, already mine," not as a request, not as a test, but as a final confirmation. Those simple words, saturated with feeling, carry more weight than hours of anxious thinking, because they close the day in fulfillment. They let the subconscious rest in the completed act, rather than the unfinished longing. Gratitude, when expressed in this way, becomes the quiet proof of faith. It is the calm exhale after planting the seed, the release that says, "I trust the soil." And in that release, life moves effortlessly to mirror the state. This is the essence of the one-day gratitude seal. The shift from asking to thanking, from waiting to receiving, from uncertainty to certainty. So let gratitude be more than a ritual. Let it be the evidence that you have already crossed the threshold. Feel it as the closing moment of your day, the sacred seal that confirms, "It is finished." And as you rest in that state, the world will rise to meet the gratitude you have already claimed within. Stories carry a unique power, because they move truth from abstraction into lived experience. One such story often retold in Neville's circles is of a person buried in debt, overwhelmed by bills, and suffocated by the belief that change would take months, maybe years. This person reached a breaking point, not of despair but of surrender. Instead of pleading with the universe, they closed their eyes and imagined a single, simple scene. They held in their hands a bill stamped, "Paid in full." They felt the weight of relief in their body, the lightness in their chest, the smile that comes when a burden is lifted. They lingered in that feeling until it felt more real than the fear. When they opened their eyes, nothing had changed outwardly. The debt was still there. The numbers had not disappeared, but something inside had shifted, and that inner shift became the seed that rearranged everything. Within 24 hours, an unexpected opportunity arose. A phone call delivered news of financial relief. A path they had not considered appeared, and the situation they once thought impossible to resolve began to untangle itself with surprising ease. This is not a story of chance or coincidence. It is the law in motion. It was not the outer world that suddenly decided to be kind. It was the inner world that finally claimed certainty. The moment the assumption overrode the fear, reality had to comply. The debt was no longer the defining truth. The fulfilled end had taken its place, and the law, which never fails, reflected it back without delay. The lesson is not in the specific details of money, bills, or phone calls. The lesson is in the posture of consciousness. The turnaround happened not because of effort, not because of hours of visualizations, but because of one moment of genuine acceptance. A single assumption, held with conviction, carried more power than days of wavering. That one moment shifted the vibration so completely that outer reality had no choice but to respond. This is the essence of the 24-hour turnaround. It is not a formula, not a guarantee that every desire must show up within a day, but a reminder that time itself is not the obstacle. The true obstacle is divided faith, and when that division collapses into unity, results can appear with breathtaking speed. So when you hear this story, let it stir something deeper in you. Let it remind you that you are not waiting for months or years. You are waiting only for the instant when assumption takes full root. And when that instant comes, 24 hours is more than enough for the invisible to begin its visible work. Many seekers scatter their energy across countless desires, money, love, health, recognition, all at once. Yet when the heart is divided, the vibration becomes fragmented, and the world simply mirrors that confusion. Neville taught that the subconscious does not respond to lists, but to a dominant state of feeling. One clear assumption has more power than many weak ones. Imagine tuning a radio that shifts between stations. You hear fragments, but no song plays clearly. The moment you lock onto one frequency, the music flows effortlessly. Consciousness works in the same way. When you live for a day as though one desire is already fulfilled, your entire being broadcasts certainty. There is no contradiction, no scattering of force, only clarity. This focus does not deny other desires. It strengthens the channel through which all can arrive. Fulfillment in one area naturally spills into others, because the vibration of completion radiates beyond a single wish. The one-day practice gains its power not from doing more, but from concentrating more. When the light of assumption is gathered into one beam, reality bends quickly to reflect its clarity. The true test of assumption is how you move through the ordinary hours of your day. From the moment you rise to the moment you rest, every gesture, every word, every breath can either echo the old self or reveal the fulfilled one. Neville called this living in the end, because it is not about occasional moments of imagination, but about embodying the identity that already holds what you desire. Imagine entering your workplace as though abundance were already yours. Your steps carry a quiet confidence. Your voice holds ease. Your choices flow from certainty. Even in the smallest tasks, ordering food, greeting a stranger, sending an email, you express the invisible reality of fulfillment. This is not pretense, it is alignment. The body moves differently when the inner state has shifted. When you live a single day entirely from the end, you discover how quickly reality begins to reflect it back. Circumstances may not transform instantly, but your vibration does, and the mirror of life cannot resist that signal. To wear the invisible skin of your fulfilled self is to walk in a truth the world must recognize. One day lived this way is enough to set everything in motion. One day is enough for everything to begin. Neville revealed that creation is finished and time is only an illusion. What you call waiting is simply postponing acceptance. The shift comes not with years of effort, but in the moment you embody the end as real. Joe Dispenza confirms that when you feel the future now, the brain and body register it as fact. From that instant, life begins to mirror the state you hold. One day of living as the fulfilled self is enough to change direction. Like a train moved by a single switch, your destiny turns the moment you decide it is already done.